Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you're tuning in to the show, welcome back to another episode of The Bookworm Mom. Today, I'm super excited to have a fantastic author and a friend. G. Van Fleet has written 2 books now. Her first book was Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning, in which she kind of detailed what her life was like having escaped Mao's oppressive regime and come to America. And I remember first discovering G back in 2021, I think it was, with the COVID shutdowns. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And G, if I recall correctly, you were one of the loudest voices at the Loudoun County school board meetings, warning them that what you were seeing was cultural Marxism. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I remember, too, that I told you that I'm thinking about writing a book. And
yes.
You said you should do it. Yeah, you should do it.
Yes, I've so encouraged you. And so now you've got that book under your belt, so to speak, and you have written a second book entitled Made in America, The Hidden History of How the U.S. Enabled Communist China and Created Our Greatest Threat. So, tell us a little bit about what it was like to have survived Mao's Cultural Revolution as a child and then immigrate to the U.S. What were some of those experiences from your time in China that then prompted you to write Made in America?
Yes. Well, that will take a long time. I just make it short. And I, of course, I was born in China, spent my first 26 years in Mao's China. And when I was in my first grade, 7 years old, that's when the Cultural Revolution started. And that lasted for 10 years until Mao's death in 1976. So from 66 to 76. And that is pretty much my youth. And after graduating from high school, Mao totally destroyed China's economy. There's no jobs. There's just nothing for young people. And so he sent all of us to the countryside and told us we should go there to continue our education. And he called it re-education by the peasants.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I worked in the fields for 3 years before I could go back, go to college. By then, they reopened the universities. During the Cultural Revolution, it was all shut down. And eventually, I was able to come to America in 1986. And I just want to say a few words about my experience in America.
Sure.
I made this mistake, believing that I left communism behind me.
Right.
And that my life here will be just happy ever after. There's nothing to worry about. And until I start to notice things here and there that kind of remind me of the Cultural Revolution, political correctness, identity politics, all the stuff. Eventually, 2020. And by then, I know that this is not some kind of a sign here or sign there. Right. It is a full-blown Marxist Cultural Revolution.
Yeah,
yes. And that's when I started to get involved. And the first thing I did is went to the school board.
And that was so amazing. I know that's where I saw you, as I said, the first time I glimpsed you. I think you were on Fox News, in fact, and they were showing clips of yourself and a few other speakers from there. And you were so passionate. And I remember at the time I was a president of the women's club here, and I said, I got to get this lady to come speak to us. People need to understand this threat. And you did. And so you supported me in my own political ambitions to run for office. And so I'm so excited that you got your book written. And so, you note that you started seeing the signs and realized this isn't a passing trend. This isn't just a fad. This is a danger sign. So, what do you see in terms of the decisions that have been made by, U.S. political elites and business leaders and intellectuals that are starting to kind of rear its ugly head? I know they made some decisions that transformed China from the post-Mao, as you call it, wasteland, into America's greatest strategic threat. So what do you think was some of those worst critical decisions instead of most critical decision? What was the worst decision that our government made to enable China?
I can say this. Without United States, there is absolutely no chance that the CCP would succeed in taking power in China.
Wow.
and eventually later to rise to the second superpower status.
Right.
It's all because of United States. It's all because our political leaders and elites and journalists fail to understand. First of all, fail to understand the nature of communism, fail to understand the specific breed, the Chinese communism. And then later, we can see that it's not that they don't understand. They don't care.
Right.
They absolutely don't care. After China was opened up, and the political leaders,
thanks to Nixon,
business leaders especially, they don't care. They just want
money,
make profit. Yeah. Yes, and that is the sad story. But I really, in my book, I want people to understand, China was, China the way it was, it's all because of us. And China is the threat, yes, but the real threat is the enemy within.
Yes.
And I really want people not to consider China nearly as an external threat. I want people to look inside and see how we made CCP possible. And so my book really traced back to the very beginning, to the 1920s, to how China, communist ideology got into China, and how we really turned blind eye in the beginning, that the founding of the CCP paid no attention. And later on, not that we did not pay the attention. By the time we engaged with the CCP during the World War II, we just failed to understand or refused to understand that communism is communism no matter what. They try to convince themselves, Chinese communism actually is not real communism. They're just reformers. It's different, exactly. And Soviet Union, yes, that's real communism, but not China. And that misunderstanding, or that is misinterpretation, still working today. It worked and is still working today.
Now, if I remember correctly, you even kind of illustrated that Chiang Kai-shek and his forces really were right there to wipe out the Chinese, and then the United States more or less gave new life or breathed new life into the Chinese Communist Party, and that ended up inevitably with the nationalists having to flee to present-day Taiwan. So,
yes,
going back to that, it just, so many people don't know their own history. They don't know American history, so they really don't understand the Chinese history and certainly the American involvement in it. So your book does a fantastic job of laying that out. There's no question. You also highlighted some of the misguided, selfish U.S. elites who use their corporations and their Wall Street connections to prioritize that short-term profit over long-term security, which is effectively what's made modern China. So if you had to name, say, 2 or 3 major businesses, are there any that stand out to you as some of the worst offenders for aiding China?
Oh, and then we're talking about modern day. I do want to go back later, to the beginning. And today you can see a lot, almost every U.S. corporations want to have a share of that to them. It's like a big pie. They want the investment there, and it's every. Some are more like, for example, like Google, like Facebook.
Sure.
They really want to get in. They will do anything to get in. But even that,
even censor their people.
Would not want them. And today, I just post something about today is June 4th, the 37th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. And yes, I remember after the internet, I could see a lot of photos that people uploaded, and now you can see very few. Mm-hmm. And I believe that Google was, at least, I when I searched Google, I can only find a few. I think actively hiding those horrific photos. Why? I think that's probably part of their effort to be
get
accepted.
Into their market. Yeah,
to the market. And then, so they fail to get into the market because they are considered too dangerous to the CCP. But every corporation that got into it, and what happened? Their technology was stolen, and their market was replaced. There was no good ending for anyone. No one, especially about the electric vehicle nowadays.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You can see that, Tesla was giving all sorts of good deals, free land, free loan, everything.
Yep.
And now what happened? It was pretty much pushed out. And yet all the technology was stolen, and now they're trying to really become the number one electric vehicle.
Well, Xi, I'm confident that you would be offered one of their electric vehicles to drive around the United States with all of the, bug-free devices that are in it. I'm sure they would not be spying on you at all.
Not only that, even if I don't mind being spied on, I don't want to risk my life to be burned alive.
Yeah, I know, your car suddenly takes over itself. Yes, exactly. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
But that is the lesson that people, I think by now, hopefully learned. That is a trap.
I wish
I
thought that, but I feel like people still have this misguided belief that, China is just one step away from either entering into a form of democracy that we could relate to, or they're going to jump into capitalism. I remember when they took back Hong Kong, everybody said, that's good. They're going to see the success in Hong Kong and they're going to implement the same, and that did not happen.
Of course.
So why do we continue to sort of live with this eyes not wide open, eyes closed? What do you see as driving that?
I would say that in the beginning, it is probably, you give them some benefit of doubt.
Right.
They probably did not understand. They probably did believe that the Chinese communism was different. But afterwards, like 1972, when Nixon went to China, by then,
open door policy.
Tens of millions of Chinese already died under the regime. But they did not care. That is the real reason that why we create such a monster. Because Henry Kissinger said, we don't care what the domestic policies are. We just see whether the relationship is beneficial to the United States. It cannot be beneficial to the United States when a regime that you try to collaborate kills tens of millions of its own citizens. And that is something that I think people still refuse to understand.
And it seems like we're repeating those same mistakes in country after country, whether you take it in Afghanistan with the recognition of the Taliban, whether you take it in Syria where we've recognized a guy who literally is a terrorist leader. We don't seem to be learning that lesson, and it's going to come back to bite America pretty hard, I believe. Now, you talk about how you see a parallel between the United States woke movement and the Chinese Cultural Revolution. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yes, this is also something that's why I wrote the book, because people do not know history because they are not taught real history. When the woke ideology hit here, and a lot of people, a lot of the conservatives just find out what's going on. Why all this is happening, and some the people on the left just embrace it, thinking this is a great idea. Yeah, we need to be woke. We need to fight against so-called oppression, but they have no idea because they don't know history. When I saw it, I saw history repeating because I've been there. I experienced something that is basically the same revolution. So that's why it's so important to learn history, and that's why I know there's many ways to save this republic. But for me, I think the best thing for me to do is to really share with American people, my experience living under communism, and my specific perspective, because I lived under communism, to tell American that woke is Marxist.
Right.
And it will lead United States to the same ruins. So history, I believe, is the key.
Well, having been a history teacher myself, I cannot agree with you more. It's absolutely critical. And I think recently Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was speaking about our founders, and she was saying that our founding fathers fought against the original billionaires. And I'm sitting here scratching my head like, what are you talking about? They were not poor people. They were the wealthiest among us, and they weren't fighting against billionaires. They were fighting against a monarchy. It's not even in the realm of the same thing, but that's just the ignorance that exists in many, not just on the left, but on the right as well.
Yeah, I have to add, it's not really, you can't just say ignorance, because it's more than that. It is absolutely the Marxist lens. That
it's a tactic,
it's the worldview that they were taught. So through that worldview, they see everything as oppressors versus oppressed.
Yes.
Right? It's a class struggle. That's the classic class struggle of Marxist ideology. They got to divide our population into oppressors and oppressed. And that's what happened in China. Mm-hmm. And if you have any land, you have any property, you are deemed as oppressor. It doesn't matter how you got it, you are oppressor. And that's how they divided the entire Chinese population into just two categories, black or red. Black means you are oppressor, and red means you are oppressed.
So I guess here it's black and white.
That's here too. That's exactly how LC look at the world. She looked at everything through that lens, oppressor and oppressed. So that's why she said, well, American Revolution, it's between oppressors and oppressed. The billionaires of the day and the oppressed poor people. That is how dangerous it is, because that is something very subtle. That's how they use education system to really change the worldview of the younger generation from a biblical-based worldview to Marxist worldview. They don't even realize the shift. That's how they look at everything through that lens. And that's what we're dealing with. And that's what I'm trying to wake people up. You have to go back. We, as a country, we have to go back to the biblical-based worldview. And that's how we built, the country was founded on. Without that, there's no way we can keep our liberty.
Well, talking about the history in your book, could you talk a little bit about some of those pivotal moments in the United States-China relation that your book identifies as missed opportunities that could have been used to constrain the CCP? What were some things that we should have done that we didn't do?
Yeah, going back to before 1949, and I would say this person is absolutely the most critical historical figure that we need to learn about. And his name is Edgar Snow. And he was a journalist in China. And he was a leftist. He's a liberal. Right. So because of his political ideology, he wanted to believe that the CCP was not real communists, they're reformers.
Right.
So he made a trip to Yan'an. That's where they were based, in the northwest region of China, in the 30s and 40s. So he went there, and then he wrote a book. And that's the title of the book is Red Star Over China.
Yes. And
that book became the most influential book. The book, even today, it's in print, even today. I
have a copy myself.
Oh my goodness. That's supposed to be the book tells the origin of the CCP.
Yeah.
And so because of that book, it changed the public opinions in the West, and also influenced presidents and also influenced presidents from FDR to Nixon. Right. Can you imagine? And also China. When its translation was made available, it influenced the whole generation of Chinese educated youth. And that include two of my uncles. They abandoned everything and they went to Yan'an to join the communists. And that, I would say, the most important thing. And then because it influenced later, like the diplomats, and also influenced generals such as George Marshall.
Right.
What they did do is that it's not that they supported the CCP. It's because they stopped supporting the nationalists who were fighting the CCP. While CCP had full support of the Soviet Union, because of that, the nationalists failed, and China was lost to the to communism. And that history was just totally forgotten, and that's why we have the McCarthy hearings, because they were communist sympathizers everywhere.
Yes.
In the State Department, in the universities, in Hollywood, and everyone that McCarthy accused were true communists. There's no like it's like just a false accusation. And what happened? He was discredited, and then the whole thing was over. And now, when young people think about McCarthyism, they think about
the Red
persecution.
Scare.
Yeah, Red Scare, and that's what happened. So I think that my book helped people to understand what happened and how China was lost.
I'm curious. In my mind, through my own reading and research, I think the last United States president we had who really understood the threat that communism poses was Ronald Reagan. He got it, and he got it all the way back from his days as the president of the Actors Guild there, Supreme Actors Guild, SAG.
Yes.
He got it. He understood what was going on, and he warned against them infiltrating our government. And if you go back to Truman actually knew there were communist Soviet spies within our government, and he was promoting these people. So I think, am I wrong? What do you think? I can't see that any president, Republican or Democrat, since Ronald Reagan have really done anything to try and stop this onslaught.
I think Ronald Reagan, I think Eisenhower too, understood the threat of communism. And of course, we know that Reagan is responsible for dismantle the Soviet Union.
But, the Democrats would disagree with you on
that. I don't care. Right. It is true. That's fact.
Yes.
But also, even Ronald Reagan failed to understand that Chinese communism is communism.
Yeah.
And he also brought this idea that Chinese communism is different.
Right. It's less evil.
Yeah. He called Chinese communism the so-called communism. And so now going forward, all the presidents after Ronald Reagan failed to understand that.
Yeah.
So we only have one president, only one, who understands not just the threat of communism, but also the specific breed of communism, the CCP. That is Donald Trump.
Well, I think given the skeptics, and there are going to be lots of skeptics, they're going to say you're just an alarmist. So what would you say? What recent events and what history would you point out as proof that the CCP remains ideologically committed to not just partnering or being the second superpower, but actual supremacy. They want to dominate. And why is understanding that so important now?
Well, yeah, the first question is, was China now a capitalist country? There's a lot of people think China now is, it's not a communist country anymore. It's a capitalist country.
Right.
And I don't have to argue with you with data here and there. Just one thing. It's very simple. As long as the murderers, leader of CCP, Mao's portrait still hanging on Tiananmen Square, CCP, China is a communist country.
Bingo.
And you don't have to. You don't have to argue. It tells you, and also in its constitution, it specifies that it is a Marxist communist party. It is a communist country. And what does communist country do? Have we learned enough? What they do?
Right.
They absolutely are against a free world, especially United States of America. And no matter what you do for them, you help them from the wasteland to the second economic power, it does not make any difference. They want to take over because they consider, they view United States the biggest threat to their power. So this is something I think that I feel kind of sad. I still talk about this, and the people that still don't get it.
Yeah.
But that's why I wrote this book.
Right. Well, to kind of close it out with something a little uplifting to give people a sense of hope. Given your perspective, you've chose America, you came here, and you've been a defender of liberty. What are some concrete steps that you would recommend that the U.S. take that we could counter the self-created threat that we have, put upon ourselves with helping the CCP? What can we do to counter that threat while simultaneously preserving our core strengths and values?
Yeah, I think for a lot of the business, they kind of start to learn their lesson.
Right.
And a lot of investment has left China because, especially after the brutal COVID lockdown, and they realize this is still a totalitarian regime. But the problem is a lot of Americans still don't understand. I can tell you one example. I was just shocked. Someone who wanted me to talk to her grandson's Christian school, a Catholic school, I think,
right,
about the horror of communism, and the principal declined, saying that we have Chinese students in our school and we want to be sensitive. So basically, that the principal wants to protect her student from knowing the evil of communism. And that's not just a public school, that is a Catholic school.
Right.
So I think for me, especially for me, I think the most important thing is to educate people.
Yeah.
To educate with real history and with personal experience. And I think when I do that, I think people probably will listen even a little more. It's, she is a witness of the evil of communism. And because of that, I really feel that I have this obligation. That is something I really, really have to, it's my mission, life mission, to educate Americans. Only when people understand the threat, and then they can demand their representatives, the politicians, that they also make policies that is protective of our country and to make sure that CCP would not take advantage of our open system. For example, now and they're still buying land. They're still buying land.
And that should
Why?
be stopped.
Because it's allowed. It's allowed.
Right.
Our law allowed. Our politicians allowed. And there's still people come here and give birth and have anchor babies from China. And why? It's allowed. Yep. It's absolutely allowed. Why? Because we don't demand our politicians to implement policies to stop all this. And so I think it really depend on people. And then when they understand, when they demand, I think we can see a change better than we just say, we hope the politician will do the right thing. Well, they haven't.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, G, I could talk to you for hours. I know I'd love to get into the subject of how Marxism and Islam has married itself together, and we could we could talk about New York City and Mondami and the first Marxist New York City mayor, openly Marxist New York City mayor. But unfortunately, don't have the time to get that far in depth. But I am thrilled that you've written this book, and I am so thankful that you have dedicated yourself to educating the American people, because so many people who claim to be educated are not. They do not know the truth.
No, they're indoctrinated.
Yes, they're
not
indoctrinated. Exactly. Yeah, it's indoctrination, not education. So please continue to write and speak, and I will continue to follow you. And when opportunities arise, I will certainly bring you into my circle, my sphere of influence, and let your information be shared with everyone. But folks, thank you so much for tuning in today. Please, if you haven't purchased the book, go out and buy the book. It's fantastic. Made in America, The Hidden History of How the U.S. Enabled Communist China and Created Our Greatest Threat. Pick that up today. We'll leave a link where you can find that book in the comments section. And I think Tripp's got a few things to share with you about some events we got going on right now with Liberty Cracked Media.
Yes, and I want to thank Z Van Fleet for being our wonderful guest today on another fantastic, fantastic Bookworm Mom podcast. And the month of June, everybody knows, is Liberty Cracked Media has tin can in their cup, or a tin can in their hand. We're out begging for money. We have Project 2027 campaign going on. We have pride too,
right?
And we understand liberty isn't free, and neither are microphones, the podcast platforms, all these other things. And so we're trying to raise some money. So if you can, go to help us get more programs like this wonderful Bookworm Mom on the air for you. So you have freedom of choice of getting some bold programming into your ears at libertycrackedmedia.com. And just go to the to our menu and go to Project 2027. You'll see a little donate button, and we appreciate every dime you get. And most people that donate might find a little freebie coming back their way also.
Awesome.
And here's another thing. On Flag Day, which is Sunday the 14th, we're going to have a little mini YouTube marathon going from 10 till 6 p.m. And you can enjoy all the fun. We're going to have the microphone monkeys, and we're going to have the Hoff is going to be in here, and special guests, special call-ins, special call-outs, and just a lot of fun and hilarity. So if you can, join us at Liberty Cracked Media. And again, thank you again. Join us next week for another fantastic episode of The Bookworm Mom.